Hogsty with your crew, Alex Zeese, Steve Thomas, and Robbie Duncan. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey Hogsty listeners, it's Robbie Duncan and Steve Thomas here with you guys. We're doing a little bumper here, little short quip of what's going on with the Redskins this bye week. You know, the rest of the guys aren't here, so it's just me and you, Steve. How you doing?
All right, I'm doing fine. We just came off the Steve Rosenberg interview. It was really good, and so we're gonna do a little bonus content for the listeners here this week.
Yeah, we besides the interview, we got to cover something Redskins, right?
Yeah, we have to. I can't go a week and not talk about the Redskins.
Exactly. So let's just go ahead and jump right in here. You know, the biggest news obviously is Trent Williams being suspended for 4 games. I'm sure you have all the juicy details on how this actually played out. So go ahead and give us that breakdown.
All right. Well, first of all, a lot of it's confidential, but the general gist of it is, if people remember back in 2011, he was suspended for 4 games before. That was under the old drug policy, but he was in with there's different stages. There's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. It's stage 2 that you get suspended in. He was in stage 2. He got the 4-game suspension before. Albert Breer's reporting this week indicated that he was completely out of the drug program as of 2 years ago, meaning it was like it never happened. Mm-hmm. And so what has happened to Trent since then is he has gotten placed back in the drug program for an undisclosed failure that we don't know about. And because what the new 2014 drug program says is that you cannot get suspended for a substance abuse, not talking PEDs, mm-hmm. talking recreational drugs. You cannot get suspended for recreational drug use based on your first failure. You have to be in stage 2 of the program. So what has happened is, after he got out of the drug program, he's failed again. So he's gone back to his old habits. This isn't a case of he's just been on the NFL's program for all these years and he missed the test and so he got suspended. No, he's placed himself back in the program again. Mm-hmm. So he didn't learn his lesson from before.
It's disappointing. It really is. I mean,
it really is.
He seemed to, been doing everything right, kind of leading everybody, being a huge team captain, started this whole Hogs 2.0 thing, rallying the offensive line guys together, the dinners things that they do every week, and then this happens. It's kind of like a, I don't want to say a fraud, but it definitely was kind of misleading, very disappointing.
I think, quite honestly, it says something about his lack of character. I can understand a mistake from before. I don't know what kind of background he has or past or whatever, but he got busted for it before.
Right.
And he got a break, and he became a team captain. At that point in time, I expect you to be squeaky clean.
Yeah.
And at least within the rules that the NFL has provided. And people out there, there's all sorts of opinions about marijuana and everything else. And number one, we don't know it was marijuana. Number two, it doesn't matter, because the NFL's rules are what they are, and he has an obligation as a team captain to set an example, and he failed to do that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about other people's opinions, and more specifically, Joe Theismann's opinion. He, I don't know if you saw this, he went in on Trent Williams the other day. And as much of a rant it is, he has validity to it. I mean, it makes sense, and it probably should be done that way, because it's just it's not a very good look at all, considering everything he's been doing, showing maturity, and then all of a sudden, boom, slap in the face. So this is what Theismann said, quote, "I think that the right thing to do for Trent Williams is to take that C off his jersey, because he doesn't deserve it. There's a responsibility that goes with that letter on your jersey, and he has not lived up to that responsibility. He has let the organization, the fans, and his teammates down in a big way. You can't come back from a 4-game suspension like he will and still be considered a captain of a football team. I just think that would be very hypocritical." And then he goes, to be honest with you, in this day and age, they'll probably go, "Oh, great, Trent's back." I think that's a bunch of baloney. I don't think you can overstate the disappointment of what he has done. And how will he do? I think backup Ty Nsekhe, he knows what responsibility he has as a left tackle, and Bill Callahan will coach him up and he'll be ready to go. He had a lot to say. I'm not going to read everything, but basically he's just going in on Trent and how much of a major disappointment this is. You can't, preach about this maturity and being a team captain when, behind closed doors you're still, being very hypocritical about what you're preaching on.
I agree with everything you read. I didn't read the rest of it, but in terms of what you read of Theismann's opinion, I totally agree with him. I think Trent's a hypocrite. I think he let the team down. And I'm not even really making a judgment so much on the drugs. I think you know how I feel about it. I'm strongly against it. Yeah. But the point is, the NFL has a rule, and you didn't live up. Not only did you not live up to the rule the second time, you got a second chance, and you failed to do it the second time. And there's young guys on the team. What does that say to the Brandon Scherfs and the Ari Kwanjas, and the Bashad Breelands who had his own trouble? What does that say to those guys?
And how can you look them in the face and pretend to be a leader when you weren't? But after everything you've been doing, like I said, you've been breaking all the rules and just being a bit of a phony, so to speak. It's really tough pill to swallow because. Me, I love offensive line play. I looked up to Trent as a player. He's a freak athlete, a really good player. But we thought he went through this maturity stage and became this major presence for the locker room and the organization, and then all of a sudden this happens.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that he was released from the program and got himself right back to where he started was just bad. Now let's just clear something up though. I mean, the Redskins aren't going to trade him. The Redskins aren't going to cut him. He's going to come back and he's going to play. I know some fans out there talking about trade him and this and that. That's just not going to happen. That's crazy. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Well, let's just mention his backup real quick. We all know Ty Nsekhe, especially us on the show. I've talked about him forever, but
we interviewed him a year ago.
We sure did. And the thing people don't realize, or people are panicking. Obviously, losing Trent is huge. It's a huge loss. We can't have our Pro Bowl, All-Pro type left tackle missing. But the good thing is, folks, Ty Nsekhe is not a slouch. He's not Trent, obviously, but he's no slouch, and he's a good quality offensive lineman who can come in a pinch, and he's going to do that. If you're really worried about him in these 4 games, you shouldn't be. I'll go back and watch the Jets game last year or the Cowboys game when he blocked Greg Hardy. I mean, he dogged all those guys. So I would not be worried at all. But,
Well, we're about to face the number 1 defense in the NFL in the Minnesota Vikings.
I mean, and they have a really good edge rusher with Everson Griffin. He's very much like what Junior Gillette is. He's a guy that with counter moves for anything that the offensive lineman does. So he's got his work cut out for him. But I don't think it's going to be, some people, Manny Benton quoted saying that the Vikings are going to baptize Ty Nsekhe. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen either. I think he's going to handle himself okay. It'll be a battle between him and Griffin, but he's not going to be outmatched. He's going to be just fine.
Well, because you said that you think Nsekhe could start for a bunch of other NFL teams, and I think Scott McLuhan said that this week too, if I recall.
I've been saying that, and then obviously Scott McLuhan said that. That's kind of come out in the open since this suspension happened. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see that Scott McLuhan thinks the same thing I do, but he is definitely a quality guy, and he would be starting on other teams, but we're lucky to have him as our swing tackle right now. So now he's getting his chance to, kind of audition for not just the Redskins, but for other teams that may be in need of a tackle next season.
And I haven't gone back and listened to that interview in a while, but I did go back and read the column I wrote about him. And people need to understand that Ty is not a kid. Ty is a mature kid, or mature man. He's very serious. He's very religious. He has a strong belief in faith, and I think all that goes to show. I say that because I think goes to show that he is going to prepare very well for this.
Oh yeah.
And not only that, he thinks of himself as a natural left tackle, not a right tackle. And that's one thing I also remember.
Yeah, and you can see there's the difference in his play. Like when he comes in from Morgan off the bench, it takes him a minute to really kind of get into the swing of things. He kind of plays from behind or catches up until he gets into a groove there. But he definitely is more comfortable on the left.
Yeah. Well, so I agree. I mean, I don't have your expertise, but I'm fairly confident that we're going to survive and do okay, with Ty in there.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Should we move on to Kirk?
Yeah.
Let's talk some Kirk Cousins.
Let's talk some Kirk. Okay, Kirk Cousins. The question of the entire offseason was: are we going to sign him? Or are we going to not sign him? Or is he going to have a long-term contract? We've seen 8 games now. We've seen some good. We've seen some bad of Kirk. I don't think with maybe the exception of the Eagles game, I don't think we've seen the Kirk of the second half of last year. Now that doesn't surprise me because I told everybody that wasn't going to come back as in any kind of.
Consistent thing.
Sort of, it's just impossible. I mean, that's you don't play like that over the course of a career. So the question is for you, do we sign Kirk to a long-term contract? What do you think?
See, my take on Kirk this season, he started off really cold, and I think he's gradually gotten better each week. I think this game against the Bengals was reminiscent of last season. I think he's slowly getting back to that stage, which is not a great thing. You want that consistently, not just like, keep me in there, I'll warm up, I'll get into the groove. You want that to be all throughout the season. So that is a little bit of what holds me back, but I do think he's getting better as the season goes on. He's kind of heating up at the right time. But
I think the next quarter of the season is going to really say a lot about Kirk because we've got the Vikings, the Packers,
Panthers,
Dallas, Carolina, and Arizona coming up. All elite teams.
Yep.
And I guess when you're talking, the Vikings, Carolina, Arizona in particular, elite defenses.
You got to beat those teams to make the money. If we eke by and barely get into the playoffs, by losing to those teams, then that doesn't make a difference to me. If we got in, it's because we, handled our business in the division well enough to eke by. But at this point, it's kind of it's kind of getting away from us.
A little bit. I mean, and specifically related to Kirk's performance, if Kirk performs at a high level, he's getting a quarterback rating of 100 against those kind of defenses. That does say something about Kirk. But if it kind of devolves in what we saw in the playoffs last year. Yeah, that also says something about him. And I just like to say, I went back and read, there's a column on our website called Kirk Cousins and his coming king-size contract that's in the 2016 offseason. And I'm not going to go into all of it. You guys can read it there. But the point is, I compared Kirk to what I call the elite quarterbacks, what I call the good quarterbacks, and then his class, 2011, 12, 10, 11, and 12. I think he fits... He does not fit into what I call the elite quarterbacks. They had a higher quarterback rating. They have a higher touchdown percentage. They had a lower interception rating. They had playoffs. They had Super Bowls. But he does fit into the good category stats-wise. So I kind of think that's sort of where he falls and the contract he's going to get.
I think he's above average right now. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's elite, obviously. But I think he's good enough to lead this team to where they need to go. I think what's really just holding this team back is not necessarily Kirk, but the defense. We can't keep this ourselves in the game because we just allow too many yards, too many points, that we just get driven on all the time. And that's hard. You can't ask an offense to keep consistently having to score every time. It's just not going to happen. It's the NFL. The defenses are going to create some stops. So the offense needs help from the defense to really, succeed too. So it's not just all on Kirk either.
Yeah, and I think, to sum up my feeling on Kirk is, I like you. I think he's above average. I don't think he's elite. But in terms of signing him, I think the next 5 weeks are going to tell the tale.
Yeah.
If we just get crushed, go ahead.
Sorry. At this point, I probably wouldn't sign him to a long-term deal. You didn't do enough. And we could do just as much with somebody else for what we got, especially at the beginning of the season.
Well, let's put that out. Let's talk about that real fast because I put out on Twitter that I thought on the Hogstye account, and I got a massive amount of crap for it. I put out that I thought Colt McCoy could have taken us to 4-3 and won this year, and I thought that he's not Kirk, and he wouldn't have put up the same good stats. I think we could have ended up in the same place with him at the helm. And I just got a massive amount of, oh my God, what are you talking about? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And, I didn't say for the record that Colt was a better quarterback than Kirk. His arm isn't as good, number one, and Kirk doesn't have a great arm, but Colt does not have a good arm. All my point is I think Colt is a good enough quarterback that we could be slightly above average with a guy like Colt McCoy at the helm. Mm-hmm. That was my point.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think. I mean, I think obviously Kirk is the better quarterback. I don't think Colt should be in there really, unless Kirk gets hurt or just completely as a breakdown. But yeah, at this point, I wouldn't be upset if we don't re-sign him or bring him back for long term. But I also wouldn't be, upset with signing him to a long term. As long as it's cap friendly and we're not like. I don't think Scott would ever, have himself like tied to Kirk for longer than maybe 2 seasons if they do put it.
Well, let's talk about that too. And what one of the sticking points last offseason was that Kirk's representatives apparently wanted the Redskins to show commitment to him. And what that means contract-wise is that they can't get rid of him for several seasons. Mm-hmm. If you look at the article that's on our website, the Kirk Cousins article, what I show is that even the top quarterbacks, even the very best in the NFL, with the exception of Drew Brees, with the exception of Tony Romo, and the exception of Joe Flacco, which is just a terrible contract, no NFL team ties themselves down and locks themselves in more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. And I just don't think under any circumstances is Scott McGloin going to sign any quarterback to a Joe Flacco contract where we're locked into years and years and years. The dead money is at $25 million in year 4. That just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I think what we'll see is, we might see a $20 million contract from $20 million year contract, but we're not going to see it. We're going to see the dead money, less than the cap hit, and by year 3, we're going to see guarantees of maybe 40%. We'll see salary cap percentage somewhere around 12%.
Yeah,
that's what we're going to see if they sign him. I guess we need to move on, but just answer me this: in your opinion. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Redskins could have won 4 games this year with Colt as a quarterback?
Do I think
4 games in the first half of the year? Yeah,
I think it's possible, but I'm not gonna. I don't know. That's tough to say. I think he could, okay. But I still think Kirk obviously is the better quarterback. So I'm gonna give the edge to Kirk on that.
Okay, well,
but
fair enough.
Here's one thing I do see happening before we move on. I do see. I think this is the year. I mean, this upcoming offseason, I think this is the year where Kyle Shanahan's going to get his head coaching gig. What he's doing right now with the Falcons, with Matt Ryan and all that stuff, making him an MVP caliber player right now. I think this is going to be the year that Kyle Shanahan gets his head coaching gig, and he could easily, if the Redskins don't keep him, just bring in Kirk Cousins to be his quarterback to run his offense. And I could very well see that happening. Like, especially the Jaguars. Jaguars have a really bad problem going on with Blake Bortles. They could bring in Kyle Shanahan, and he could bring in Kirk Cousins to compete with him and probably even beat him out the way that Blake Bortles is playing. But that's just a speculative prediction.
The first time I saw the Falcons play all year was this week against Tampa. I've watched some of that game, and boy, Matt Ryan just looks unbelievable right now. He was dropping balls in perfectly, unbelievable. Yep. So, you want to move on to a little bit of a mid-season review, you think?
Well, yeah, we have that, and we got a poll that we brought back. We resurrected from the grave. Oh, yeah. You want to do that first?
Let's do the poll. Let's do the poll. All right. The poll this week was, who do you think should start at running back after the bye week? Because we saw Matt Jones get hurt, and Rob Kelly had his opportunity. So I was curious what the fans thought. So the choices here were Matt Jones as the feature back, Rob Kelly as the feature back, split carries but favor Jones in number of carries, or split carries but favor Kelly in number of carries. So what's your opinion, Robbie?
I favor Kelly over Jones. I think you split the carries because I think Matt Jones is a solid, complimentary back. I don't think he's a workhorse starting type, but I think he's a good guy to add in the mix, throw a screen to, do whatever. But yeah, Kelly is definitely your number one type guy. He's a creator, like I've said before. He has the vision you need. He's decisive. He makes his cut and goes. He gets you those dirty yards. So I think he's definitely our starter now. I think it'd be a mistake to keep Jones as the starter.
I agree with you, and the fans agreed with you. I would go farther. I think Kelly ought to just be the feature back, and treat Matt Jones as the second stringer. I think all running backs. I think Rob Kelly ran better when he was the sole feature back this week against the Bengals. Mm-hmm. So what the fans thought. We got good participation on this one, so I think it's fairly accurate. 63% voted that Rob Kelly should be the feature back. 28% voted the carry should be split, but let's favor Kelly, meaning a two-headed monster, and Kelly gets a few more. 6% said split but favor Mike Jones, and only a mere 3% of the voters said Mike Jones should be the feature back. So if you add all those numbers up,
you were saying Mike.
What I say, Mike Jones?
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones probably passed his football playing time. He's a reporter now for the Post. What that means is a full 91% of the public out there, at least our public, thinks that Kelly should be featured in some way, shape, or fashion.
Honestly, I'd rather be I know there's not you don't have as many slots to make a poll with, but I think what I would have voted for if it was there was Rob Kelly, the feature back, with Chris Thompson as the primary split carry guy. Like, he'd be the one to get the other carries if Kelly isn't carrying it.
Yeah, I thought about that. I couldn't get it done in the Twitter poll and make it make any sense.
Because
Twitter, if you're out there, give us a fifth choice, please.
Yeah, that was. I think Chris Thompson is really kind of breaking out as a running back and as a player for this team. He's really being showing his toughness to him, durability to him. At the beginning of his career, he was very injury prone, kind of guy that you're like, well, he's exciting. We want to see what he can do, but he can't stay healthy. We were all ready to move on from him, and now he's really becoming a key part of the offense. And yeah, I would definitely have it more. I would if I made the depth chart, it would be Kelly, Thompson, Jones. But that's just
It's
me.
funny you say that. No, it's funny you say that, because I think what Jones has done this year is he's proved that he's more than just a scat back. I really have only thought of him as a scat back, third down back, poor man's Darren Sproles, maybe.
He wishes he was a scat back. Matt Jones, that is.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Thompson.
Oh, I thought you said Jones first. Sorry.
No, maybe I did. Let me clarify. Then what I'm talking about here is that Chris Thompson, has showed me that he's more than just a scat back. Which is what I always thought of him as. Mm-hmm. I think I kind of thought of him as a poor man's Darren Sproles, but he can do regular carries inside the tackles and do fairly well. Mm-hmm. It's just an injury thing with him more than anything.
And the other thing I like about him too is when he goes up against somebody one-on-one, like when he's carrying the ball, it's not very often that the first guy brings him down. As little as he is, he's able to break out of those tackles. He stays up most of the time and then gets brought down by like 3 or 4 guys. He's a very tough little guy, and you even watch him on third downs when he's blocking instead of going out for a pass. He's sticking his nose in there and doing some good stuff for the team.
To be perfectly honest, I think he's Jay Gruden's favorite back.
Probably.
Yeah, I think if he was a little bigger, he'd be the starter, and it wouldn't even be a question. Honestly.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I guess mid-season review. Let's do a short mid-season review. Kind of where we are. We're 4-3-1, obviously. Dallas is taking control of the NFC East. I hate to say it. And the tie, while it wasn't a loss, has, in fact, I believe, propelled us into 4th place in the division. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So let's do this. Offense and defense. Letter grade. Offense overall, and then give us your thoughts about where we are.
Letter grade, I give them a B+. I mean, they've done some really good things, especially passing, getting yards. We've been putting up points, but it would be higher if we were better in the red zone. We are terrible in the red zone right now. Whether it's execution, play calls, whatever, we're just not doing well in the red zone, and that's where you have to be good to be a successful team, and we don't do that.
Well, I'd like to maybe put this out there as a part of our red zone problems. And I saw this proposed somewhere, maybe Burgundy blog. I can't remember. I can't give you credit, whoever came up with this. I'm sorry, I can't remember. But The person postulated that the reason why we're having problems in the red zone is really a play calling problem, and because when we're not in the red zone, you can have guys like Deshaun streak down the field, open up the field a little bit,
Right.
And when we don't have that, and there's not a real threat to run, because it's only been the past couple games that we've had any threat to run at all, and we're still not, despite the yardage, we're not a real big threat to run. And so when you have a really pass-centric offense and the defense is crowded up because of the small field, that creates a lot of problems for the offense, and that may be part of why we're failing in the red zone at a greater rate. I thought that was a good. I can't remember who said it, but I thought that was a good. Thing
No,
to
yeah,
say.
I attribute a lot of it to play calling too. I mean, we've thrown way too many fades in the end zone. We're just not good at that. I mean, we have Jordan Reed who can catch a fade, but really we just don't have a tall target to throw one to. I mean, Pierre Garçon's not a fade receiver. He's not an end zone threat.
No.
So and we throw it to him most of anybody.
Because he's all we have.
Yeah, it's just it's frustrating. Once Josh Doxson.
This is where Josh Doxson.
Yeah, once he's healthy and ready to go, then sure, throw the fade, let him jump up and get it. But we just can't do that right now, and we still force it.
But more than that,
or have been forcing
on the
it.
goal line. Yeah, run the ball inside the 5-yard line. We don't need to pass it all the time. Like I thought Rob Kelly's touchdown against the Bengals, was it the Bengals or the
Bengals.
week before?
Bengals.
It was great. That was a play that Matt Jones wouldn't have made.
No, he wouldn't.
And I think we need to do more of that, and that would open up. I think that would open up the field a little bit inside the tackle. So, but my grade, I would go B, not B plus. We have been moving the ball, like you said. We have red zone problems, like you said. The running game took 5 or 6 games to even look competent. It was just awful in the early part of the season. So I'd knock it a little bit for that. So I'd say B.
All right. What about defense?
Defense. Gosh, I mean, we've looked awful at times and we've looked good at times. I'd give the defense a C. Because we've let teams run up and down the field on us. Our run defense has been atrocious all year. I don't know if Scott McGloin is done tinkering with our defensive line or not. I think outside of Chris Baker, they're a bunch of average or below average guys, at least in terms of results. Josh Norman has been good for the most part, but he's sort of lost the battle. He kind of lost the battle against A.J. Green, and he kind of lost the battle against Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
So I'd give him a C, and frankly, I think that's generous.
The defense a C?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm about the same spot. I'd give him a C minus. I mean, we had that stretch where we didn't allow a touchdown, which was great, but that was like lipstick on a pig. But we weren't giving up touchdowns, but we were giving up a lot of yards.
It was also against the Browns and the Ravens.
Yeah. So I mean, really, it's just been very, very poor in my opinion. It's just not good tackling. And, guys not in the right places. They're running the ball all over us. There needs to be some serious fixes along that front and everywhere pretty much. There's not much you can do now at this point. You just got to play better and coach better. Off season, it really needs to be a focus. I mean, free agency, we need to spend money on the defense. I don't care what Scott's philosophy is. Yeah, you don't spend much in the free agency, whatever. But eventually you're going to have to do something because, sometimes it takes longer for drafted players to develop. And, if you want to be a competitive team, you need guys in there that can, make an impact right away.
We can't be 30th to hover between 30th and 32nd in the NFL and rushing yards per carry defense and be a playoff team and a good team. That's just not going to work.
Exactly.
And we're about to come up against some running teams. Dallas is a running team.
Carolina's
a running team.
Arizona, they got David Johnson, who's an MVP candidate too. It's you have to stop the run. As much as a passing league it is, teams still are very good at running the ball, and you have to stop it.
Yep. So, I gave a C. I think I was being generous. Truthfully, a C minus might be more along the lines of it. I'll stick with my grade, though. And just real quick on special teams, we'd be remiss in pointing out that Jamison Crowder has been a world beater as a punt returner. I give him an A+. He's leading the NFL in punt yards. So that's just especially considering where he came from, which was terrible last year. He's become the best, and so that's awesome. So just want to throw that out there real fast.
Cool. All right, so I think we got one last thing to mention. A little fun thing here. At the midway point, this is when the NFL starts to open up the Pro Bowl voting ballot for fans and everybody to vote. So let's discuss who your realistic Pro Bowl candidates are, Steve, and then I'll do mine.
All right. Well, Josh Norman's a candidate, I think. Jordan Reed should be a candidate. Before Trent's drug suspension, I would say Trent would be a shoo-in. I wonder if that's true now. He's missing 4 games. He's going to take a hit in the voting from people who just can't vote for him. But he's a candidate for sure. I think Ryan Kerrigan, he's had a quiet season, and I know some fans out there tweeted at us, they think we hate Ryan Kerrigan. We don't hate Ryan Kerrigan. All the point was is that I think the impact plays we used to see really aren't there anymore. But point is he has 7 sacks. 3rd in the NFC, so he's a candidate. Brandon Scherf maybe have a long shot. I think he's had a good season. The guys who I think are going to make it, I think Reed will make it. Josh Norman will make it. Trent will make it despite his drug suspension. I think that's probably it.
That's it. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think I think Josh is going to be one of those guys. Besides the Bengals game, he hasn't had a bad game yet. I mean, Steelers was all Antonio Brown versus Breeland, so Norman didn't even really get tested on that one. They just ignored Josh Norman. He's been everything we hoped he would be, in my opinion. He's a leader. He's very tough. He's savvy. He makes plays when he gets the chance to. When they throw in his direction or when they run at him, he knocks the football out. So Josh Norman I think is a shoo-in. I think Trent Williams is a shoo-in too. I mean, the suspension sucks, and it'll take a hit a little bit because he won't be playing for 4 games. But I don't think that matters. The way fans vote is, it's the people that are popular and put out there. And Trent Williams is one of our names that gets put out there the most when it comes to Pro Bowl stuff. So he's going to be in there easily. Yeah, and Crowder should be a shoo-in too, the way he's been returning.
Yeah, I meant to say Crowder. I was just thinking about that. I think he should be the special teams.
Yeah,
guy.
You need a returner. There's a returner spot for the Pro Bowl roster. So, I think Crowder at this point should be a shoo-in, unless there's a popularity vote that he gets snubbed on. But who else? I think Brandon Sheriff should be in it. I think he realistically should be in it, but it's very competitive at the right guard spot. There's Zach Martin on the Cowboys. There's other really good guards in the NFC. It's going to be tough to beat, but he probably won't be a starter on the Pro Bowl. But I think he'll make it as a backup. And then I don't think Kerrigan's going to make it. Yeah, he's 3rd in the NFC for sacks, but he's just been too quiet to me. He had his big game against the Eagles. But really, other than that, he's been very quiet, in my opinion. I don't hate him either.
Yeah.
He's really just not as impactful as he used to be. He has his spurts here and there, but it's just very inconsistent for me. And then who else? And
he's getting paid a big contract. That's the problem. He's got a $75 million contract, and he's not performing at an A level.
Yeah, and that's disappointing. And then obviously Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed's just unbelievable. He is. Yeah. I mean, besides Gronk, I think he's definitely the best tight end in the league. He's just so dynamic, so good at catching and running with the football. It's really fun.
I said this earlier. I mean, he torches cornerbacks. Sometimes he beat corners for touchdowns.
Yep.
When a corner can't keep up with him, that's just incredible. Yeah, I mean, Jordan Reed's incredible. I just hope he takes care of his health.
Mm-hmm. You want a sleeper pick for being under consideration? Morgan Moses. I don't think he's.
Wow, you think so?
I think the play of the offensive line overall will get him looked at more. I don't necessarily think he's played at a Pro Bowl level.
Because didn't you write an article that said he wasn't playing that well?
Well, yeah.
And he had falls in his game?
What I'm saying is I think the recognition that the offensive line as a whole is getting will get him more consideration. I think he'll be a surprise, not make the Pro Bowl.
7th choice or something.
Yeah, I think he'll be a surprise, a surprise, what's the word for it? I'm drawing a blank here. Alternate.
Oh, you think he's going to be an alternate?
Yeah, I can see him being a surprise alternate. I think he's had some really good games. Don't get me wrong. He's still very spotty technique wise, but he's been solid in pass pro for the most part. I mean, he gets beat here and there, but other times he's just blocking his guy and keeping him, keeping Kirk clean. He doesn't get beat that much, but when he does, it's ugly. So that's the thing that makes it hard on me to really, it's the inconsistency. But I think
Well, I'll give a sleeper pick. I'd say Chris Baker's going to get a little love. He's gotten a lot of attention this year. We've seen some inside pressure coming from him. I don't know if he's going to make it, but I think he's going to get some votes, and he may be a sleeper to get some love.
Yeah. So despite my constant bashing, it's not hate or anything on Morgan. It's just critique. I think despite all of that stuff, I think he could be under consideration.
Yeah. So those are our Pro Bowl predictions. Rob, you had one more thing you wanted to address before we sign off here, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but outside the Redskins, the NFL is just really kind of showing their ass. They've been doing that all season, really, with flagging everything and anything that is remotely or anything close to a penalty, like celebration-wise, whatever. But they're here they're showing their ass again because Ken Stabler made it into the Hall of Fame, obviously. But here's the thing: they're not giving his family his Hall of Fame ring or a Hall of Fame jacket. They're withholding.
Why would they do that? I don't understand that at all.
It doesn't make any sense to me either. It's just not a good look by them.
What are they going to do? Just hang on to it? I mean, that's crazy.
I guess it doesn't make any sense to me. The family should be able to have it to put up as to frame the jacket. Put the.
What's a family heirloom?
Exactly.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
There's no reason why the NFL should. The NFL's really been nutty about. I mean, they've taken a lot of bad flack about, the
Josh Brown thing.
The giant. Yeah, I was about to say the Josh Brown thing.
The penalties. Their ratings are low because players can't celebrate. They can't be entertainers. Everything is fined for anything stupid, anything remotely. It's just so ticky-tacky and just ridiculous.
You're going to find Josh Norman for pretending to shoot a bow and arrow at nobody.
Yeah.
And yet it's okay, and the NFL approves a contract, guaranteed 2 years, guaranteed money to a guy who the NFL and the Giants knew beat his wife. They knew there was an incident because they knew at a minimum the Pro Bowl thing happened, and that nobody cared, and the NFL just went ahead and approved it, and the Giants went ahead and did it, and the only reason they said anything about it is that the media found out about it and busted.
Well, yeah, and
so shame on the NFL.
Well, yeah, shame on them for also, and Chris Breaker tweeted it the other day. And Josh Norman's talked about it, but it's absolutely right. He tweeted this yesterday. The NFL advertises beer, but fines players for having fun. I don't get it. We can't have fun no more. I guess they want kids to be alcoholics. I mean, it's really true. Kids are watching football with their families, and every commercial break has at least 2 or 3 beer commercials, whether it's Bud Light, Coors Light, whatever. Beer is just all over the place, and the fact that a player shooting a basketball is fined and considered a bad look for kids or
well, I'll say
unsportsmanlike.
My kids are a little older now, but in years past, we've been watching football, and I've had to turn the channel during commercial breaks because I really don't want to have to explain what Viagra and Cialis is to a 7-year-old. And you're going to advertise that stuff, and yet you're going to fine Josh Norman for a bow and arrow. I know. I don't understand it.
Yeah, obviously the commercials portray beer and alcohol as good things. You have it to have a good time, that kind of thing, which is not a good thing for kids to see. I mean, when they're older, when they're grown up, they can make their own decisions. Have a beer. I don't care. I mean, I like a beer too, but it's not like, I don't know. It's just not a good look where you're promoting stuff like that for kids to see and contradicting yourself by fining players for being entertaining. It baffles me. I don't like it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we could talk for 3 hours about that if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But let's not.
No, I think that's about it, really.
Rant over.
That was our rant, and I think most of you agree with us on that. It's just totally ridiculous that the way the NFL is, and something needs to be done about it. Because you're going to keep losing viewers, and less people are going to want to watch because of that. But anyway, that about does it for our bye week episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back again with our preview for the Vikings game next week. Hopefully we'll be going in for a really good game because the Vikings are struggling right now. We need to win this game. So we'll catch you guys later. Catch you on Twitter. Hail the Redskins and all that stuff. So
we'll catch you on the flip side.
See ya.